Dante Rivers had always walked the line between precision and instinct. Trauma surgery had taught him that life and death didn't wait for bureaucracy, politeness, or hesitation. At 38, he had learned to trust the instincts honed over 15 years of long nights in emergency rooms, cold mornings in operating theaters, and endless coffee-fueled hours of monitoring vitals. But tonight, as he walked the rain-slick streets of Eastbrook, those instincts wrestled with a different kind of tension. The pulse of a city that felt hostile, almost alive with unease. The hospital had been suffocating in its own sterile glow. Fluorescent lights reflected off white-tiled walls, creating phantom shadows that clung to the surgeons and nurses like second skins. Dante had spent the last 4 hours stitching, suctioning, and praying for a young mother whose heart had finally given out despite their efforts. He walked away feeling hollow, the antiseptic lingering on his uniform and under his fingernails as though the death had left residue there, marking him. A sudden commotion drew him from his thoughts. The muffled hum of the city was punctuated by voices. Panicked, hurried, some angry, some crying. A small crowd had gathered at a dimly lit intersection, umbrellas trembling in the drizzle. Lying in the middle of the street was a man. His body twisted at an unnatural angle, a thin trail of blood staining the asphalt beneath him. Dante's heartbeat quickened. He knew the signs immediately. Shallow, rapid breaths, a pulse fluttering at the edge of collapse, the gray pallor of shock. Training and experience took over before he even thought. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring the murmurs and sideways glances. "I'm a trauma surgeon," he shouted, holding up his hands. "Step aside. I need to help him." The paramedic who had arrived first, a tall man with a perfectly trimmed beard and navy uniform, stepped toward him, eyes wary. The moment Dante revealed himself, the man froze. Something in the paramedic's posture screamed hesitation. A subtle recoil, a tense line in his jaw, a hand hovering near the medical kit as if unsure whether Dante was a threat. "I'm already on this case," the paramedic said, voice firm, carefully neutral. Dante's brow furrowed. Neutrality was one thing. Refusal was another. He had encountered resistance from overworked staff before, but this was different. The hesitation wasn't exhaustion. It was prejudice. He felt a familiar cold weight settle into his chest, an anger mixed with disbelief. "I'm telling you, he's deteriorating. You need to stabilize him now," Dante barked. The paramedic's eyes flicked to the man on the ground, Marcus Allen, and then back to Dante. His expression tightened, and Dante recognized the silent judgment he'd seen too many times in his own career. The subtle, dismissive bias aimed at someone because of their skin, not their condition. Dante snapped open his wallet and pulled out his trauma surgeon badge, holding it aloft so that the dim streetlight reflected sharply off the laminated surface. Trauma surgeon glimmered in bold letters. "Do your job," he said, his voice low, razor-sharp. "Or step aside." The paramedic finally stepped back, though his movements were slow and reluctant. Dante dropped to his knees beside Marcus, assessing every sign. Pulse, breathing, skin color, responsiveness. Marcus moaned softly, eyelids flickering as if fighting between consciousness and oblivion. His leg was bent at an angle that shouldn't have been physically possible without breaking multiple bones, blood seeping from a gash on his thigh. "Hey, I need you awake for me," Dante said softly, though his hands moved fast and precise. "You're going to be okay. We're going to fix this." Marcus groaned again, weakly shaking his head. The paramedic hovered, arms folded, reluctant to touch anything without Dante's explicit instruction. Dante barked orders with calm authority, and finally, the man complied. There was a tension in every movement, a silent war between the instinct to save and the instinct to discriminate. As Dante worked, his mind wandered, as it always did, to the unspoken truths of emergency medicine. He thought of the countless times patients had been dismissed or delayed because someone had made a snap judgment based on race, class, or appearance. He thought of the young mother whose life had slipped through his fingers that evening, and he felt the weight of frustration with the system, both outside and inside the hospital, never truly changed. Marcus's groans turned into shallow moans, his breathing rapid. Dante stabilized the leg as best he could, applied pressure to slow the bleeding, and monitored his vitals, all while issuing precise instructions to the paramedic. He noted subtle bruises along Marcus's torso, some recent, some older. Something about this didn't sit right with him. The story of a motorcycle accident seemed too rehearsed, too neat. His instincts screamed that there was more beneath the surface. The paramedic finally offered to administer 4 fluids under Dante's supervision. Dante didn't miss the way his eyes flicked to Marcus as though doubting whether he deserved care. Dante's hands tightened over the man's arm, guiding the needle with exact precision. "This isn't about deserving care," Dante said quietly, eyes locked on the paramedic. "It's about saving a life. Every life deserves that." Minutes later, the ambulance arrived. Dante helped lift Marcus onto the stretcher, his hands never leaving the man's body until the paramedic had strapped him in securely. He maintained a careful watch over Marcus's vitals, making sure nothing was left to chance. Before the ambulance doors closed, Dante caught the paramedic's gaze. There was a flicker of recognition there. Hesitation, regret, the faintest hint that he knew he had failed a basic moral test. "This isn't over," Dante said quietly. Not a threat, not a warning to the paramedic. A promise to himself, to Marcus, and to every person who had ever been dismissed in a life-or-death situation. As the ambulance drove away, the city street returned to its eerie calm, umbrellas dripping onto the slick pavement. Dante's mind raced, replaying every detail, every hesitation. There was no satisfaction in having saved a life tonight, only the hollow ache of having fought prejudice in real time. Then he heard it, a voice, low, almost ghostly from the shadows. "Not everyone can be saved. Some things are meant to be revealed in time." Dante stiffened, scanning the dim corners. He thought he recognized that tone, the kind of voice that had haunted him in trauma bays long before he ever stepped into the night. It was a warning, a puzzle, a threat. Marcus stirred on the stretcher, weakly gripping Dante's hand. "Thank you," he whispered, barely audible. Dante leaned close. "Hang on. We're not done yet." As the ambulance disappeared, Dante lingered, rain soaking through his clothes, city lights reflecting in puddles like fractured glass. He replayed the encounter over and over. The hesitation, the subtle bias, the silent refusal that could have cost a life. And then, as if the universe wanted to taunt him, he remembered a call he had received 2 days ago. A tip about corruption, negligence, and malpractice within the very emergency services he relied upon. A small voice inside him whispered, "This isn't just one paramedic. This is systemic." Dante walked home slowly, each step heavy with anticipation and dread. He needed to find Marcus again, learn the truth behind the bruises, and confront the system that allowed this near tragedy to happen. And somewhere in the shadows, someone was watching. When life is on the line, and someone refuses to help because of who you are, what do you do? Comment below and subscribe to White Coat Secrets to see the shocking truth revealed in the next chapter. Dante barely slept that night. The storm outside matched the storm within him, rain hammering the windows as though the city itself demanded answers. He had showered, changed, and tried to close his eyes, but the memory of Marcus lying in the street, and the hesitation of the paramedic, replayed endlessly in his mind. It wasn't just medical negligence. It was prejudice. It was bias made flesh, standing between life and death. By morning, the sun was hidden behind a thick veil of gray clouds. Dante brewed coffee he didn't drink, checked his phone compulsively, and stared at his badge longer than usual. The laminated card had once been his shield, proof of his authority in any emergency. But last night, he'd learned how fragile that shield really was. Without flashing it, Marcus might have been left to die on the pavement. His phone buzzed with a new message. Unknown number. If you value your career, stay away from Marcus Allen. Some wounds aren't meant to be reopened. Dante read it twice, then a third time. His stomach tightened. This wasn't paranoia. It was a warning. Someone was watching him, and they didn't want him to dig deeper. He thought about reporting it, but who would believe him? Complaints about prejudice in emergency care rarely went anywhere. He had seen too many brushed under the rug, filed away as misunderstandings or isolated incidents. Dante had built his reputation on saving lives, not stirring controversy, but the longer he sat staring at that text, the more he knew he couldn't ignore it. By mid-morning, he was at Eastbrook General, his home hospital, checking the trauma registry. It took some maneuvering, favor owed here, a small lie there, but he found what he was looking for, Marcus Allen. 32 years old. Motor vehicle accident. Status: admitted to ICU. Notes: multiple fractures, internal bleeding stabilized. Prognosis: guarded. Dante exhaled in relief. At least Marcus had survived the night. But the report bothered him. It was clinical, sterile, stripped of context. No mention of bruises inconsistent with the crash. No acknowledgement of the hesitation in treatment. Just neat, tidy lines. Too tidy. He needed to see Marcus himself. The ICU was dim, hushed, the steady rhythm of machines filling the air like a mechanical lullaby. Dante's heart tightened as he saw Marcus lying there, pale but alive, tubes and monitors tethering him to life. His eyes fluttered open as Dante approached. "You again," Marcus croaked, voice dry. "You're the reason I'm still here, aren't you?" Dante pulled a chair closer. "I was there when the ambulance came. I did what I could." Marcus gave a faint smile that never reached his eyes. "You did more than most would've. I saw it." "He didn't want to touch me, did he? That paramedic?" Dante hesitated, then nodded. "You noticed too." Marcus coughed, wincing. "You think that was the first time? I've been in and out of this system since I was a kid. They see me, and they decide before I open my mouth whether I'm worth their time. Last night wasn't new. It was just almost the last." The words sat heavy in the air. Dante leaned in. "Marcus, the bruises on your torso. They didn't look like they came from the accident. Is there something else going on?" Marcus's gaze darted away, his jaw tightening. For a long moment, Dante thought he wouldn't answer. Then, in a low whisper, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you. And if I do tell you, it'll put us both in danger." Before Dante could press further, a nurse walked in, her smile polite but her eyes sharp. "Dr. Rivers, you're not on this case. Visiting privileges are limited." Dante rose reluctantly, giving Marcus a reassuring nod. "We'll talk again. You're not alone in this." The nurse's eyes followed him all the way out, and Dante couldn't shake the feeling that her watchfulness wasn't about protocol. It was surveillance. Outside the ICU, Dante's phone buzzed again. Another text from the same unknown number. "You should have stayed out. He's not who you think he is." Dante's pulse quickened. Marcus wasn't just a victim. He was connected to something bigger. Something dangerous. That evening, unable to resist, Dante went to the local precinct to request the accident report. The officer at the desk, a young man barely out of academy, glanced at the file and frowned. "That's odd. The report doesn't list a license plate for the other vehicle. Says it was a hit and run, but there's no witness statements. Just the paramedic's notes." Dante's jaw clenched. The paramedic. The one who had refused to act until Dante flashed his badge. His testimony had shaped the official narrative. Leaving the precinct, Dante couldn't shake the feeling of being followed. Footsteps echoed a little too perfectly behind him. Cars slowed as he crossed intersections. By the time he reached his apartment, the back of his neck burned with unease. He drew the blinds, checked the locks twice, and finally sat down with a notebook. He wrote one name at the top, Marcus Allen. Then beneath it, unknown paramedic, and underlined twice. Why the warning? The rain began again, tapping at the windows like impatient fingers. Dante's pen hovered as a memory surfaced, one he had buried years ago. A patient, a boy of 15, brought in with a gunshot wound. The paramedics had delayed treatment, claiming the scene wasn't secure, but Dante had known the truth even then. The boy hadn't made it. His death had been filed away as unavoidable, but Dante had seen the same hesitation in their eyes. And now, years later, history was repeating itself. Dante leaned back, exhaling. He was entangled in something he couldn't yet see. Marcus knew more than he let on. The paramedic's refusal wasn't an accident. And someone, somewhere, didn't want the truth to surface. As the night deepened, Dante heard the faint buzz of his phone again. A voicemail this time, distorted by static. A man's voice, low and urgent. "Stop digging. Dr. Rivers. If you don't, you'll end up like him." Click. Silence. Dante sat frozen, the words echoing like a curse. Like who? Like Marcus? Or someone else? He stared out the window at the city lights fractured by rain, his reflection staring back at him, eyes haunted. The game had begun, and he was already in too deep. If someone tried to warn you off with threats but you knew lives were at stake, Would you walk away, or keep digging for the truth? Dante's apartment felt smaller than usual, every shadow stretching like a warning. He hadn't slept, and the rain outside had turned into a relentless downpour, masking the city's noises but amplifying his own anxiety. Every text, every voicemail, every glance at Marcus's bruises played over and over in his mind. There was something in that man's eyes. Fear, but also a story that refused to be ignored. By morning, Dante knew he couldn't wait any longer. He needed answers, and he needed them directly from Marcus. His first stop was Eastbrook General, but this time, he didn't sneak past the front desk. He walked in with purpose, his surgical badge clipped to his shirt, and asked for Marcus Allen's attending physician. Dr. Simmons, the nurse answered, her tone clipped. He's stable but under strict observation. Visits are restricted. Dante's jaw tightened. I'm a colleague. Trauma surgeon. I need to speak with him. Confidentially. The nurse hesitated, her gaze flicking toward the ICU doors. I'll check. Wait here. Minutes stretched like hours. When she returned, she motioned for him to follow. Keep it quick. And keep your voice down. Marcus's eyes lit briefly when he saw Dante enter. You came back, he whispered. I didn't think you would. I had to, Dante said, taking the chair beside his bed again. I can't stop thinking about what happened, about those bruises, about why the paramedic hesitated. Someone tried to warn me off. Marcus's hand twitched, almost involuntarily, and Dante noticed a fine tremor in his fingers. They're watching me, Marcus said, voice low. People I can't name. If they knew I talked to you, I'd be in real danger. I didn't tell anyone before. Not even my family. Dante leaned in closer. Tell me everything. Slowly. Step by step. Marcus swallowed hard. I work with the outreach program. We help at-risk youth, undocumented families, people the system ignores. And sometimes we uncover things we shouldn't. Like corruption, abuse, mismanagement. People don't want the truth out. Not paramedics, not hospital administrators, not law enforcement. Not anyone. Dante's pulse quickened. He realized the paramedic's hesitation last night wasn't random. Marcus had been targeted because someone wanted to send a message. I was followed after leaving the clinic, Marcus continued. They tried to scare me, warn me off. I didn't know you were there. Otherwise I'd have called for help. Dante's mind raced. Do you have proof of any wrongdoing? Names? Dates? Marcus hesitated. I have files, videos, statements. But if they get those back, they'll destroy me. And anyone connected. The weight of his words sank deep. Dante had encountered malpractice and bias before, but this was something larger. A network of people willing to manipulate emergencies, to intimidate whistleblowers, to let the vulnerable suffer. I'll protect you, Dante said. Whatever it takes. Marcus gave a small, almost incredulous smile. You don't know what you're getting into. Last time someone tried to help me, they ended up in the hospital themselves. Not for injury, something else. Dante felt a chill. He had faced threats before, but never like this. This wasn't about lawsuits or reputations. This was about survival. Later that evening, Dante received a message from an unknown number again. Step away, or you'll regret it. Marcus Allen is not who you think he is. You're being watched. Dante's grip on his phone tightened. He didn't flinch. He had made his choice. Marcus wasn't just a patient. He was a person at the center of a storm, and Dante was already entangled. The following day, Dante tried to investigate the paramedic's history. He found his name, Greg Holman. Holman had a clean record, superficially. But under the surface, there were gaps. Cases dismissed, internal complaints sealed, references from hospital administrators. Every path Dante tried led to dead ends or obfuscation. The more he dug, the more he realized he had stumbled into a web of secrecy carefully maintained. As Dante worked late into the night, Marcus's words echoed. People don't want the truth out. Suddenly, a soft knock at Dante's apartment door froze him mid-sentence. He wasn't expecting anyone. He moved cautiously, scanning the hallway through the peephole. No one was there. Just a small envelope slid under the door. Inside was a single photograph, Marcus, lying on the street, but with another figure looming nearby. A figure Dante recognized instantly. It was Holman, the paramedic. And in the shadows, another silhouette. Unclear, indistinct but menacing. No note. No explanation. Only the image and the implication. "We are watching." Dante's hands trembled slightly, but he forced himself to steady them. He couldn't run, couldn't hide. Marcus needed him. And Dante, by instinct, couldn't turn away from injustice. The next day, he arranged a clandestine meeting with Marcus at a discreet location outside the hospital. They chose a small, almost abandoned cafe where few patrons lingered. Marcus arrived, hood up, eyes scanning constantly. He seemed older somehow, the stress etched deeply into his features. "You know they're watching us," Marcus said quietly. "Every step. Every phone call. I've been forced to hide more than I can count. And now you're involved." Dante nodded. "I'm in it now. I can't walk away." Marcus's voice dropped even lower. "You need to understand the stakes. Holman isn't just a paramedic. He's someone who follows orders. Someone who protects a system that allows people like us to be hurt. And if you push too far, they'll come for you. Not just warnings this time." Dante swallowed hard. He had faced threats in the ER before, angry relatives, unstable patients, but never this, deliberate intimidation, orchestrated by someone within the system sworn to save lives. And then, a strange silence fell over the cafe. The overhead lights flickered, and Dante's instincts screamed. Someone was there, watching. From the corner of his eye, he saw a man in a dark jacket, half hidden by a pillar, observing them. Not moving, not intervening, just watching. Marcus leaned closer. "We have to move. Now. They'll be watching us long after we leave." Dante glanced at the figure, then back at Marcus. "Do you trust me?" he asked. Marcus's eyes met his. For a moment, Dante thought he saw relief, and then fear. "I have no choice," Marcus admitted. As they slipped out the back of the cafe, Dante's phone buzzed. Another message. No number. Just words. "You're in deeper than you know. Some truths aren't meant to be unearthed." Dante's hands clenched into fists. He had two choices: back away and protect his career and safety, or push forward, risking everything to uncover the truth. And as the rain began again, cold and relentless, Dante realized something he had long suspected. In the battle for life, justice and truth, there were no easy choices. Only consequences. The rain hadn't stopped for days. Eastbrook streets were slick with puddles reflecting the gray sky, streetlights, and neon signs that flickered intermittently. Dante's mind raced as he maneuvered through the city, every shadow a potential threat. Marcus's warnings echoed. Holman wasn't just a paramedic. He was part of a system designed to silence those who saw too much. They met in a warehouse on the outskirts, a location chosen by Marcus's few trusted allies. People who operated quietly, away from prying eyes. Inside, the air smelled of oil, old wood, and dust. The faint hum of machinery added an eerie rhythm, like a heartbeat waiting to explode. "You trust these people?" Dante asked cautiously. Marcus nodded toward three figures emerging from the shadows. A woman in her 40s, tall and wiry, with sharp eyes and a clipboard. A younger man, tech-savvy, hunched over a laptop. And an older man with graying hair, whose calm presence gave Dante the strange impression of quiet authority. "They're the only ones I can trust," Marcus said. "They've been documenting everything Holman and his associates have done. Internal corruption, intimidation, withheld care. All of it. And now they've given me a chance to fight back." The woman stepped forward. "Dante Rivers, right? Trauma surgeon. You intervened during Marcus's accident." Dante nodded. "Yes. I couldn't ignore it." She gave a thin smile, sharp as a blade. "Good. You may have just made yourself a target." Marcus led Dante to a makeshift office. Files, laptops, and portable drives were scattered across tables. "This is everything," Marcus said, pointing. Video footage from inside the ambulance, paramedic logs, hospital reports, discrepancies, falsified documents. Holman isn't just negligent. He's intentional. He and others like him decide who deserves care, and who doesn't. Dante's pulse quickened as he reviewed the materials. Every image, every record, confirmed what he had suspected. The paramedic's hesitation wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Every delay, every misjudgment, had a pattern. Then a sudden noise, a metallic clang in the corner of the warehouse. Dante and Marcus froze. The older man nodded toward the shadows. "They know we're here." Before Dante could react, a door slammed open, and Holman stepped inside, flanked by two men in plain clothes. His expression was calm, almost casual, but his eyes held a dangerous glint. "I knew you'd be nosing around," Holman said, voice low. "Dante Rivers. You have a choice. Walk away, forget all of this, or end up like the rest." Dante's hand brushed his badge. "I can't do that. Lives are at stake. You know it. You can't justify withholding care." Holman's lips curled into a smile. "It's not about justification. It's about control. Some people are expendable. Some truths are inconvenient. You interfering makes you expendable too." Marcus stepped in front of Dante. "You won't touch him. Not here, not now." Holman's eyes narrowed. "And if I decide to?" The tension was suffocating. Every second felt like a countdown to violence. Dante noticed the tech-savvy ally subtly activating a device on the laptop. A signal, a recording, a trap. Suddenly, the older man with gray hair spoke, calm but authoritative. "Holman, you've crossed lines that can't be ignored. The evidence we have is enough to put you under investigation. Step back." Holman laughed, sharp and bitter. "You think anyone will believe this? The files can be destroyed, the videos erased. And anyone who talks will vanish before the system even notices." Dante realized the depth of what they were facing. Holman wasn't just a single bad actor. He was a representative of a network built to silence truth, manipulate outcomes, and enforce compliance through fear. A sudden movement. The younger tech ally hit a button. Screens lit up around the warehouse, projecting Holman's own recorded admissions, his deliberate delays, falsifications, and biased decisions. Holman froze, eyes widening. "Where did you get that?" The woman stepped forward. "We've been documenting for months. Every move you thought was hidden, every decision you made in secret. You've been exposed." Dante felt a surge of relief, but it was tempered by caution. Holman wasn't defeated yet. His calm had cracked, but the danger was far from over. "You think this changes anything?" Holman said slowly. "The system protects people like me. You're all fools if you think a few videos can topple decades of control." Marcus shook his head, frustrated but resolute. "It changes everything. We have the proof. We can make them accountable." Dante added, voice steady. "And you, Holman, will answer for what you did. Marcus's life, and every life you've endangered, deserves justice." Holman's glare was lethal, but he stepped back, calculating. "This isn't over. You've made powerful enemies today. Remember that." As he left, the warehouse doors closed behind him, leaving an eerie silence. Dante exhaled, relief and tension mingling. They had won a battle, but the war was far from over. Marcus turned to Dante. "You understand now. This is bigger than just one paramedic. There are others, people who profit from neglect, from fear. And if we're going to bring them down, we'll need more than courage. We'll need strategy, allies, and precision." Dante nodded. "I'm in. Whatever it takes." The storm outside intensified, the rain hammering the warehouse roof. Dante realized that every choice now carried weight, not just for him or Marcus, but for anyone caught in the system's crosshairs. And then, a final message on Dante's phone, from the same unknown number. "You've seen too much. Don't think you're untouchable. Some truths demand a price." Dante stared at the screen, the gravity of the situation sinking in. The confrontation with Holman was only the beginning. The exposure of a system built on bias, neglect, and silence had set forces in motion that could change lives, or end them. If you were Dante or Marcus, knowing that exposing the truth could put your life in danger, would you risk everything to hold the system accountable? Comment below, and subscribe to White Coat Secrets to see how the shocking final chapter unfolds, and what consequences await those who dare to defy a corrupted system. The city was cloaked in darkness when Dante and Marcus returned to the warehouse one last time. Rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the streets gleamed like glass, reflecting the chaos that had been unleashed over the past days. Every step toward the entrance felt heavier, loaded with anticipation. They knew Holman wasn't finished. Not yet. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Screens flickered with footage from previous encounters, logs of Holman's manipulations, and encrypted files containing months of clandestine documentation. Marcus's allies were already there, coordinating, checking equipment, and reviewing evidence. Every person moved with precision, aware that even a single mistake could give Holman the advantage. Suddenly, the door slammed open, and Holman stepped in. He was alone this time, but Dante could see the calculated determination in his eyes. The calm menace that had once been tempered with arrogance now burned with desperation. "You think this little setup can stop me?" Holman asked, voice low but resonant. "You've made enemies you can't even see." Dante's fingers tightened around his badge, but he spoke steadily. "We're done running. You've been exposed. You've endangered lives for years, and now you'll answer for it." Holman laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You have no idea what you're up against. The system protects people like me. Marcus Allen isn't the only one. There are networks, layers, people who will ensure this never reaches the light." Marcus stepped forward. "Then we'll make sure it does. They can't hide forever." The tension snapped. Holman lunged toward the nearest console, attempting to destroy the evidence. Dante reacted instinctively, shoving him back. The struggle was brief but violent. Holman was strong, trained, and desperate. But Dante's years in trauma had honed reflexes that allowed him to hold the upper hand. The younger tech ally triggered the backup protocol, instantly uploading files to secure servers. Holman's eyes widened in disbelief. "No, this isn't possible." The older man with gray hair stepped forward calmly. "It is. You can't erase what is already everywhere." Dante pressed his advantage. "It ends tonight. Holman, your time controlling who lives and who dies is over." Holman froze. Then a shadow appeared behind him. Another figure, someone Dante didn't recognize, emerged from the darkness. The person grabbed Holman, twisting his arm and forcing him down. Dante realized that Marcus had anticipated this. Another ally, previously unseen, was part of their plan. "You should have walked away," Marcus said coldly. "But you didn't. Now you face the consequences." Holman struggled, but the network of allies held firm. Dante could see the realization in Holman's eyes. He had misjudged them, underestimated the resolve of those he thought were powerless. Minutes later, the authorities arrived, summoned through anonymous channels and verified evidence. Holman was taken into custody. His network partially exposed, the first step in unraveling years of corruption. Dante and Marcus stood in silence as the officers led Holman away. The storm outside had cleared, leaving the city wet but quiet. For the first time in days, Dante allowed himself to breathe. But the victory was bittersweet. Marcus turned to Dante, a shadow of uncertainty in his eyes. "This isn't over. There are still people out there, others like him, and exposing them has made us targets." Dante nodded, understanding the weight of what they had done. "Then we keep fighting. We make sure this truth survives, no matter the cost." Marcus gave a faint smile, tinged with fatigue and relief. "Together then." The scene faded as Dante looked out over the city, the lights shimmering against the wet asphalt. Justice had been served tonight, but the system remained fragile, filled with unseen threats, subtle biases, and silent oppressors. And then Dante's phone buzzed. A final message from an unknown number. "You've changed the game. But remember, not all victories are free of consequence." Dante stared at the screen, a chill running down his spine. He realized that for every injustice they had corrected, countless others remained. And in exposing one, they had only begun to illuminate the darkness that still existed. What would you do if exposing the truth meant putting your life and the lives of others at risk? Is justice always worth the price? Or are some secrets too dangerous to reveal? Comment below, and subscribe to White Coat Secrets to join us as we uncover more shocking stories of bias, medical neglect, and the consequences of challenging a broken system.